Yep.
Center, and I know that Jose is still whooping around.
Good afternoon, everybody. Good to see everybody. We do have a quorum, Ms. Kristen.
Yep.
We're in good shape there. John, would you give thanks for us, please?
Okay. May we bow our heads in a moment of prayer. Father, we thank Thee for allowing us to come out today. We thank Thee for health and strength that You give us. We thank Thee for allowing us to awake this morning still clothed in our right minds. And we hope that You will go out to the nursing homes and hospitals and pray for those people and bless those people so that they will get well. We hope that we can do good for the city of Temple. And Father, we ask that You praise the council, the mayor, and the city councilmen so that they can do what's best for the city of Temple. These things and others we ask in the name say, amen.
Amen. We'll get, Kristen, if you would read the minutes of the last meeting, please.
The last meeting was July 18th at 5:30 p.m. It was held at Temple City Hall. The call up to order was given by Chairman Randy Williams at 5:30. The invocation was given by John McClure. Mayor Lester Harmon administered the oath of office to new Planning Commissioner member Jeff Shackelford. Committee members present: Randy Atkins, John McClure, Jeff Shackelford, Linda Williams, Randy Williams. Absent was Bert Stevens. Approval of the minutes from November 14th, 2016. There was a motion to approve the minutes by Randy Atkins, second by John McClure. Vote 5-0. Under new business, item number 1, consider a recommendation to the City Council concerning a request for an exemption plat for property located at 282 Carrollton Street, more particularly being that plat part of tax parcel T0400600067 that was not combined with the property at 268 Carrollton Street. Application by T. Cooper James and Associates on behalf of the property owner. A representative from T. Cooper James and Associate was present at the meeting. He explained that the property is one parcel over from City Hall and that the exemption plat is a split of Carroll Heights' remaining property that was rezoned last year. He stated that they are putting in a left turn lane in front of the property. After a brief discussion and public comment, there was a motion by Randy Atkins to approve the request for an exemption plat as drawn. Second by Linda Williams. Vote 5-0. Item number 2, consider a recommendation to the City Council concerning a request for a variance on property located at 229 Carrollton Street and 249 Carrollton Street for the purpose of relocating the property line between these two adjacent lots. Application by property owners Max Golden and Ellis Golden. Mr. Jack Witcher was present at the meeting to represent Mr. Golden. He explained that they have asked to have part of the track moved off of the service station and moved into the parking lot. Moving the land makes the adjoining lot much more usable. The ownership stays the same. This is designed to promote better development in the future for whatever business decides to go there. There was a motion by Randy Atkins to approve the request for a variance for the purpose of relocation of the property line between these two adjacent lots. Second by Jeff Shackelford. Vote 5-0. Item number 3, announcement that these recommendations to the Mayor and City Council would be presented during a special called meeting of the City Council at 5:30 p.m. Tuesday, July 25th, 2017. Randy Williams explained that the Planning Commission's recommendations would be presented to the City Council during a special called meeting on Tuesday, July 25th. Other business, City Administrator Bill Osborne explained that they finished up work this afternoon on the preliminary draft of a future land use map, as well as trying to update what will be an accurate zoning map. A meeting is being planned for Tuesday, August 15th to discuss adopting a new future land use map. Adjournment, there was a motion to adjourn by Linda Williams, second by Randy Atkins. Vote 5-0. The meeting adjourned at 6:01 p.m.
Does anyone know of any errors or omissions in the minutes that were read? I hear a motion we accept the minutes. Okay. Second.
I second motion.
Okay. All in favor, signify by raising your hand. As long as unanimous, that motion is passed. Kristen, would you read the special minutes too from the special meeting?
Okay, this was from the August 15th, 2017 meeting, which was a joint meeting with the City Council. Called to order. This meeting was called to order at 5:30 p.m. jointly by Mayor Pro Tem Richard Bracknell. Council members present were Richard Bracknell, who was serving as Mayor Pro Tem in Mayor Harmon's absence, Howard Walden, Thomas Wallace. Planning Commission members present: Randy Williams, Randy Atkins, John McClure, Linda Williams, and Jeff Shackelford. Council members absent, Penny Ransom and Todd Rockwell. Approve the published agenda of this state city council meeting as presented. There is a motion by Councilmember Walden to approve the agenda, second by Councilmember Wallace. Vote 3-0. Presentations on the City of Temple zoning map. Howard Ray distributed copies of the draft zoning map. He wanted to get this information out to the Planning Commission and the City Council and to get it out into the public for people to mark it up, make comments, express their concerns, etc. He said the map is not 100% correct, but it is a starting point. He's going to take in all of the information that he receives and bring back an updated map to the next meeting. Discussion by City of Temple elected officials and Planning Commission members. There was a lengthy discussion amongst the Council and Planning Commission members. Presentation on drafts of proposed future land use map for the City of Temple. Howard Ray stated that they began working on this back in about 2007, and at that time the plan was to mimic what Carroll County was doing at the time. This map is a starting point and has positive and negatives to it. Review of requested follow-up activities concerning the presentations and discussions. There was a lengthy discussion and lots of questions were answered regarding both the zoning map and future land use map. This will be an ongoing process and there will be another meeting in about a month. Adjournment, there is a motion to adjourn by Councilmember Walden, second by Councilmember Wallace. Vote 4-0, the meeting adjourned at 7:18 p.m.
Thank you, Chris. Here, you want to know if we can have the admissions in these minutes that are ready for our special call. Motion to accept the special meeting minutes.
Motion.
Heard a motion duly seconded that we accept the minutes of the special call meeting. All in favor, raise your hand. Unanimous, the motion has carried. We go on to our order of business now, and that's first one is we have some business where let me say this and correct me, Bill, if I'm wrong, what we've done so far. We gave Grace City Church a conditional use permit. The period we gave it to them was 4 years, and those terms are outlined as we voted on. They have to use it for the purpose that we gave them a conditional use permit for. And if they move, the permit goes away.
Just one clarification, you made the recommendation to the city council to do that. The council went along with your recommendation, but the council actually approved it.
And we have a representative now asking us to renew or extend this.
Yes, sir.
Is Mr. Morgan on?
Yes.
What, would you like to say something, Mr. Morgan?
Good evening. My name is Charlie Morgan. I'm an elder at Grace City Church. I just respectfully request that you approve or suggest to the city council that they extend our special use permit for as long as we occupy the space. There will really be no change in how it's used. Simply worship center and children's Sunday school. And, there were some conditions placed on our use of that area, and we've adhered to those. And, we remind people of those conditions, so we will abide by those throughout our occupancy. So have any questions?
Yes, sir. So I'm just about the same thing, so let me ask just a couple of questions.
Sure.
If your church continues to be successful, and I feel like you may be planning to build a building or acquire another piece of property at some point, is that true?
Yes.
And that area has worked out for you, that building has worked out for you guys?
Yes. For the present time, we're not, we do have a 9 o'clock service and 11 o'clock service. Of course, everyone prefers to sleep in on 11 o'clock services, usually more full than the early one. But after the use permit was approved, we spent some time finishing out the space. And as we were paying as we went along, we got all the certificate of occupancy later in around March. about the time everything was finalized. And so we moved in basically April or Easter time. And so we've had a few months to settle in. Everyone's in their routine. Now we're developing some discipleship classes and working on promoting growth. The funds are stable, so I'm really pleased about that. And, all the bills are paid. We're starting to build up some excess. Looking forward to starting to develop some plans for growth.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to say that myself and my wife rode by there today, and the place looks great. Y'all did a great job with the Stacy.
Yeah,
And,
the
both,
sign is really nice.
the
And
sign is really nice, the children's center is really nice, it looks great.
Anybody else got any questions like that, Mr. Gray?
I don't remember, did we put any kind of stipulation in for them not to sublease?
Yes.
Because if they move, sublease to anybody.
Go ahead, Mr. Gray.
Of course, your action tonight will be a recommendation to the mayor and the city council, and they will then act on the request of I told us 2 meetings where it will be on the agenda. And as has been mentioned, you have the request that Mr. Morgan has presented to you is to extend that conditional use permit as long as they are there, as long as they abide by the stipulations that were adopted. You could recommend for 1 year. You could recommend for a multiple number of years that you would specify, or you could recommend that they not be renewed. So not renew for a specific number of years, beyond 1 year, renew for 1 year, or renew for as long as they there abide by the stipulations.
If I may, how will those stipulations be checked? They would have to put paperwork in every year, or?
Basically,
I know the stipulations.
if you look at the stipulations, combination of if we had any complaints of alleged violations of those stipulations, if we were made aware of them through patrol by the police department or any incidents that would come up, and as you know, that basically the stipulations have to do more with outdoor activities of the church than anything else.
Anybody aware of any complaints? I haven't seen any complaints from anybody. There's several things, Bill and I talked about that, and he just reiterated those points how we can do this. We can just give them, we can recommend to turn it down, or we can just give them the time that we have here, or we could give them a number of years, or we could let them stay there as long as they're abide by the stipulations as they are written. Because if they move it, then automatically the conditional use permit goes away. So they can't sublease it to another business, or the church comes in and it goes away. No longer for. I feel like now I'm all for building a church and building a church plan. I'm all for building that, but I feel like we need to limit the number of years again, just because we don't know what's going to happen in terms of the growth pattern, the traffic pattern, whatever. So instead of tying ourselves to just give them X number of years, we might need to talk about it again. So what do you guys think about that?
You have a set number of years that you would like to recommend?
Well, 3 years is not a long time. But I mean, we're not saying we're going to take it away from them in 3 years, but circumstances could change. For everybody, for them, us, and everybody, represented county. So we're not tied to just use it for everything. But now you guys tell me what you think, what you want to do.
I agree with Randy. I think that, just saying forever, is a little too, vague on that. We need, I think more than 1 year, though. I think it needs to be multiple years. But, city has needs and it's growing, and maybe something like that. I mean, we're talking right now about rezoning and all this stuff in the city.
We don't know what's happening.
We don't know what's gonna happen right now in 6 months, so. I
We don't know if any of us will be alive in 3
There you
years.
go.
I just have another question. Well, like Randy said earlier, is there any set limit to y'all's growth that y'all will be looking for a place to build a church? Or you got to kind of play in the barrier too?
Yeah, we're just kind of seeing what happens. The likely scenario is, if we continue, as we continue to grow, we would, add reschedule our services to add another service. But then there's going to be a limit to, how many services you can do, wear the pastor out. But that would be our first choice, would be to just increase the frequency of services. And as the funds become available, we would look to, purchase land.
On the other comment, it's obvious to me they're not a fly-by-night operation. They've invested quite a bit of money in doing the remodeling, cleaning up, and preparing the area, and doing what they need to do. What are your pleasure, Tom? Put that in motion. We want to say that, extend this existing.
Existing as it is for a period.
Year to year, revisit it after 3 years and see what.
Like I said, that gives them, they're not in the budget for a year, and like I said, they're not fly by night. Back to using it, take good care of it, and get stewards of it.
Jeff is moved to let them extend this conditional use permit for 3 years. I hear a second.
I second.
Is there any discussion? You've heard a motion duly seconded that we advise the council. Our recommendation is with Grace City Church, we extend the conditional use permit for 3 years, at which time they'll have to come back and see us. Any more discussion? All in favor, signify this by raising your hand. Unanimous. Motion is so granted.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Bill, do you have any other business that we need to discuss before we go to recess?
No, sir, nothing at this time.
All right, folks, we're going to recess until the city council meeting starts at 6 and they get open, and we'll reconvene and go with them.
Most, every one of you did it before. I've sort of created just a thing there if you just want to check it. If it's near new and you weren't here before, you want to fill out down there, but otherwise, I think most everybody at the table was here, just put a check mark there, it'd be good. Won't have to rewrite all that information. That's just really from a record standpoint, to make sure that I have your contact information. And does anybody need one of my cards? Anybody? I can grab that phone in the back. What I'm gonna try to do is just go parcel by parcel or map by map and show you the things that we have changed, and then go from there. But actually, before I start, based on what I gave you.
Why don't you hold off till we start the meeting?
Okay, I'm sorry. Sorry. Sorry about that, Bill.
We're gonna have a few more minutes.
Kind of get on. You want me to give this to Todd while I'm going by?
Yeah.
Oh, they won't be coming back, or not, so they're going back to the regular council.
Yes.
Okay. So.
Yeah, no, next week.
Split. That's what I was wondering. Perfect.
Okay, Mr. Brackman says we have 6 o'clock, so we'll call this meeting to order. I hear a motion to approve the published agenda.
Make that motion.
Got a motion by Mr. Brackman, here a second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Wallace. Discussion. In favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? That's carried. And this is a joint meeting with the Temple Planning Commission and the mayor and council. Mr. Williams, I'm going to call your meeting to order.
Sir, Mr. Mayor, our Temple Planning Commission will call from recess to order for the purposes of our call meetings of the city council.
Okay. Opening comments, Mr. Williams, you have any?
I truly don't, but I think that we found some errors already in the zoning map, and I think we're going to find a lot more benefit for our citizens with a clear picture of what's going on with the zoning map and what we need to do to alleviate some of the problems that might encounter in the future.
Mr. Osborne, you're on. Just very briefly, if you remember about a month ago, we had this meeting and went through the draft that Howard Ray had for you on the zoning map. What we asked you to do was to take a look at it over this past month, talk with anybody you wanted to. What we were trying to do was to see if there were what you perceived to be errors in it, so that Mr. Ray could further look into those to try to give you his accurate map. Purpose tonight for this part of the meeting, of course, is to have the new input from the elected officials and from the Planning Commission on the revised zoning map which Mr. Ray has given to you. After we get through with everything on the zoning map, we then, as we did last time, we'll take a look at the proposed future land use map with whatever discussion you want to have on it. Now, at the end of the joint meeting, following adjournment of the joint meeting, the Planning Commission, which will be in recess, Planning Commission will go over and meet at that table right in front of, in that corner over there. With that table, there will be just the five of you plus Howard and Dwayne. The mayor and the council will continue to meet right where they are, and with they have another special call meeting with one agenda item. From the standpoint of what we would hope would take place with the Planning Commission is that if the discussion we're about to start answers all of your questions, and if you, the Planning Commission, feel comfortable with the way the zoning map looks, as saying this is as close as we think we can get to a current zoning map, we would ask you to consider making a recommendation to the mayor and council that they would consider at the October 2 meeting. On the other hand, if you feel like that there's still questions you have, we would try to get another meeting ready for the Planning Commission, just the Planning Commission, next week. What we had said, and this was several months ago, as we looked at this, that if it all works, then we would like to put the mayor and the council in the position on October 2nd of adopting the zoning map to be our current zoning map. If neither body is ready to take action that quickly, then obviously we would not want you to try to just beat a deadline. We're just trying to move things along. The future land use map that you were talking about on the second part of the joint meeting, nothing else is planned on it other than your discussion tonight. We will be scheduling another meeting on that sometime later in the year, but I don't see action being taken to approve a future land use map for several months. But this is start of the process as we described to you on the future land use map. But the zoning map, what we're talking about, as you know, we're trying to be sure we got an accurate zoning map, and that's the purpose for this next part of the meeting. That's all I had, Mr. Mayor, unless somebody has any questions.
Mr. Ray. All right. I appreciate everybody's time on this. Just sort of thinking, I guess the first question I'd like to ask, and I know what I've handed you is totally different in a lot of ways. I'm thinking, if you saw that there was a change needed on the previous map, my first question would be, would you take that time right now and look at the map in front of you and see if that has been corrected? If not, let me go ahead and get your comments now while I'm slowed down enough to write it down. And then I'll walk you through everything I changed. Does that make sense?
General commercial shopping center, is that the same designation, or is that different?
They're different. Yeah, and technically, you do not have any shopping centers commercial. You don't have any of the CSC.
Well, all of the spots that are in red, then they can be a lighter.
Yes, they should be the CG if they're not.
Yeah, they're labeled CG, I was just wondering.
You've got two reds that are pretty close, so I need to change. Yes.
I was just asking a question.
What what I may do is, like, see in the DCD, how it's got a stripe? See on the legend on the right, how the DCD has a red stripe? Everybody see that? Okay. So what I'm thinking I'll do is on the CSC is we'll do some type of striping on it, but you're not gonna see it anywhere but the legend.
Yeah.
But that way it'll make it a little clearer.
Thank you, I just noticed that other shopping center over there.
And my thoughts are, the reason when we adopted this code back in 07, 06, whenever it was, the reason we brought this in was because of the interstate, because of 113, because of 78, that's, you know, that's a heavier commercial, okay? I also see it possibly for downtown, but that's some things that we'll work through in the development code and so forth as we figure out how we want that to look. In other words, we're gonna have some of the discussions in the future land use about some of those things, not necessarily on the mapping, but the vision. You know, what I want us to do is not only develop a future land use map, but I want to get the city thinking about what do we want the city to look like. And then that'll roll back into the development code and quite possibly into the zoning code. There may be some amendments that we want to look at. Yes, sir.
I've got a question. I didn't notice anywhere, maybe I just overlooked it, where it was anything zoned neighborhood commercial.
Correct.
What actually is it? Can you remind me what the definition of neighborhood commercial is?
It is it's a more restrictive commercial. I'm going off, you know, it's not going to be a gas station. It's not going to be an auto park, or not going to be a, there are restrictions, and Bill, you may remember better than I do, but it's going to be more,
Maybe a beauty salon or something?
Commercial business.
A hair salon?
retail. It's going to be something, it's going to be a lighter version. In other words, I don't want to sit there and say it's not going to be a Dollar General, because it might. I'd have to, you know, but there are restrictions. I'm pretty sure gas pumps are not allowed.
Is there anywhere,
Where would you
where
see
we can
it?
get an actual
It's in the zoning code.
describing this?
Definition.
It's in the zoning code. Does anybody happen to have that with them? Otherwise, I'll bring it next time. But it'll be in this, yeah, there'll be some definitions. And then in the way, what's your first name again? Yeah. Where you're gonna see the difference is in a use table. And, so it has all the uses, and then it has all the zoning categories here, and there'll be like, I think there's a filled-in square, a blank square, and a circle.
With a dot.
Right, and so that's gonna be where you see the differences, where there's gonna be one what's permitted by right, and then there's, allowable by special use, I think, and then not allowed would be nothing in the box. So if you look in the use table, that's where you'd really see it. And what I would challenge the planning commission is to look at that use chart and see if there's things, you know, that need to be shifted around. Because I haven't looked at it in a long time, okay? So I'm not gonna sit here and say there's not something that I would recommend.
That's the use table that you had 2 years ago.
Yes, sir.
Long
Yes, sir.
time ago.
Yes, sir.
But these colors and zonings are not at that. All
No.
of these are not. You know, some
All of these colors are R1, R2, R4, all those designations should be in your top bar of your uses. I'm sorry, you got uses down through here, and then across here is your zoning, best I remember. And so each one of those should be across your top bar. The only one that may not be would be, I remember we created the R4. The rest technically should be along that bar. Does that make sense?
What about, this is Tanner, and it looks like it's still the same old family. You know, the mobile home thing, mom and home track here.
It's this one right here, O and I. That one's across the street, so it's this one.
Okay.
You follow me?
Yeah, I'm following. And what about, right, this is Foster Green, this is Tanner.
Yeah, so yeah, what I, so what I did is I cut that track right there, and that's funeral home.
Right.
That's OCA.
Okay.
And this is, this used to be one track right here. and it's office institutional. I'm trying to think, this is, what is it? Spa? Doctor's office. So now what I did here, and I'll go over this with everybody also, but that originally used to be one track, and now, based on the county, this has been cut out. I'm not sure how it got cut out because it doesn't have any frontage now. So it shouldn't have been allowed, in my opinion, without action from these two committees, because it's got no road frontage, so therefore it's not a legal lot.
That's attached to the Crawford property now.
The medical, it's supposed to, right? In the
It
county,
doesn't belong to the medical officer, it's attached to Crawford.
the back way.
Yeah.
Well, see, the county's not showing that. Gotcha. So he's saying it's attached something over here. Off of that face of 113, right? That one there. So technically, they would probably need to do, this is the right way to do it. I'm not saying it has to be done this way, so I want to be clear with that. You know, technically, they would need to do a lot combination and report that to the county with that all be one track, and then they'd need to update their zoning. Because really, right now, if, let's say they did a lot combination, but it never got recorded, in their mind, it's the same. So my question would be, what are you taxing them on? Half the lot's OI, half the lot's residential.
Well, was it in need of verification? That means we don't know, right?
Right, what I'm showing is that it is an independent piece back there, and I didn't change the medical to O&I, because that matches the old map, and I'll show you that in a minute. Where we were having confusion, what she was bringing up, C.A. Thomas used to have an office, okay, and it was showing his property and Linda's mother's as one tract. And that was one of the things that's why I was confused in that area, because like, I know there's an office here, so we have arbitrarily set a line in there just so that we know, even though the county shows those two as the same tract. Let me rephrase that. We got data from the county that we're relying on. Now, did we by chance delete a line? I'm not gonna say that didn't happen because it's been known to happen, okay? But what I wanna say to you is, we have relied on the county, and my opinion is that line was not given to us, but it could have been. So it could have been my error, but at the end of the day, I got a line in there now. If you put a scale on it, is it exactly where it's supposed to be? No, but to me, this is a map, not a survey, that it signifies there's a lot there. And whether it's 200 feet, 100 feet, 90 feet, I don't know that this map cares. That makes sense?
Yeah.
You probably have lawyers in the room that might argue. I'm not a lawyer. So, all right, so everybody's going through those. If there's something that jumps out before I start walking you through it, then let's discuss it. I'm gonna come right back to you, okay, sir? Go ahead, Howard.
Okay, I got concerns about the Harrelson County property. I had asked Mr. Osborne to do what we had talked about, and that's to pull information from Harrelson County as far as what they collected for us on city taxes.
Mm-hmm.
And this DCD that was supposed to have been annexed in from Harrelson County on Venable Road.
Which map are you on?
Okay, I'm on the back map.
Okay, all right, cool. I just want to make sure I was on the same one.
Yeah, just showing you everything.
Oh, I got you. Okay, my bad. I didn't know you gave me that.
Remember the Jack Myers
Yes,
property?
yes.
Okay, there's nothing that says Harrelson County is collecting city taxes for us on that property. All I can do is assume that the city attorney at the time didn't follow through with the annexation stuff.
Right, because my map guy, when he talked to Harrelson County, they're showing that is a city property on their GIS mapping, whatever. They're showing it as in the city of Temple. Because there was actually, the only reason I know this, if you look at the original maps that I gave out, there was a red sliver on adjacent to that. Do you have the original one I had sent out in August? I got it. And so that was a discussion me and my mapping guy were discussing. Bear with me one second, guys. I know I'm all over the place.
Well, if it's in the city, we should be getting the tax revenue.
I'm sorry. So this one here, and I don't know if that one's Jack Myers, so I apologize. You know, that one showing that they're saying it's ours, but I don't know how, it's got to be part of that track, but we just took it off. For my part, it doesn't matter. Now, I will say this, Howard, and I don't want to be ran out of this office, okay? So, but I'll say this, it's my opinion, you got a lot of issues, okay? Because when I look at what is showing up on Carroll County tax parcels, it looks to me like y'all are getting a lot of residential taxes collected in commercial zone property. That's my opinion. I'm not a taxpayer, so I'm not in that fight, but I think that that's something that the city should look into, because potentially there's a good bit of money that's not being collected at the proper rates to the city.
But you're
As clean as I can say it.
You're saying this Harrelson County property that you currently belong to that line is now city property?
My GIS guy was talking to whoever their mapping lady is, I think, and she said, yes, we are showing that as Temple. But now what I'm hearing from you, if they're not collecting taxes, we got a map and a tax assessor talking separate.
Right.
Now, I'm going off of what the employee has told me. Here again, I have not verified that. Okay,
Well,
so.
that's something we need to find out.
Right, so
Trying to get the map up to date.
Right, to me, and I don't know, Bill, Mike can answer this better than I can, you know, the city needs to determine who is the proper person to do those audits. I think you've got a couple of audits. One, what is in Harrelson County? And what should those tax rate structures be done, and what needs to be done to make sure they're correct? You know, personally, I can't speak to whether they're right, wrong, or what. I don't know that. That's not what I do, okay? That's just not that's not my job. Not necessarily the scope, but I don't do that every day, okay? And so my thoughts are that's gonna be either on the city manager level or on the attorney level. I don't know, okay? Or is it the Carroll County tax people? I mean, I'm assuming Carroll County collects all the city taxes and then writes y'all a check, right?
Right.
So.
And Harrelson County does the same.
Right. So, I don't know, I mean, I think you've got that piece, and then you've got a piece relative to what does your zoning map say, and what are we taxing them at?
Well, my question is, do we leave it on the map and then try to pursue collecting taxes on it? Is that what we?
Well, it is my opinion that what I show, these commissions and the council have acted on. Now,
It's in the
right,
minutes.
you follow me? I believe what I show, it has been acted on, is supposed to be yours. Now, was the legal I's dotted and T's crossed? I cannot answer that.
Okay, so that's something.
And I know that's what you're asking me, and that's why I'm trying to answer it.
Maybe we can put that on the city administrator.
So,
I'll be glad to look in that with the attorney. What you got on Harrelson County, on the information we received from them was, after your last meeting, I made contact with the tax commissioner, and she sent to me what was supposed to be, yes, sir. Now, whether or not there were properties that they did not include, we asked them for the list, and they provided the list.
So they've given you a list that they're collecting taxes on, so is that, just to make sure I'm stating it back so that I can process it.
Now, the annexation on the DCD, Webster Lake on McClure Road, it is, they're showing it in Harrelson County. I don't know how much of it. I don't know if
Well,
they're showing
and I will
it
say
somewhere
on
else.
that one, best I remember, they did not give us that as their mapping, and because we represented that client at that time, I was like, I know that one was done. Now, here again, was the I's dotted T's crossed between the two attorneys? I can't answer that. But what I do remember when they sent me their mapping, they did not have, they had the little triangle right here.
Right.
So between Webster, it's not Webster, what's in it, Old Bremen and the railroad, they had that. They did not have the 60 acres on the other side of Old Bremen. I keep forgetting the name of that road, I apologize. And I was like, no, that's in there. So that would be something I would check relative to their report is, let's say it's tract so-and-so that you're showing me, how many acres are they showing for that one for? Right. So I do remember that in their maps they sent me, the larger portion on the west side of Old Bremen was not sent to us. And I said, that's part of it, you gotta send it to me.
The only other question I have about Harrison County, they're showing that they're collecting city taxes on Candy Kitchen Road somewhere, and that is nowhere near the city.
I have no idea where your Candy Kitchen is.
Travel road.
78 west. Up 78 west.
West. All right. Let me go to this guy before I...
My question is Rockin' Road, map G.
Yep.
We got a laundry map there, and you got it zoned R1 on the map here.
Gotcha. Good catch.
And I know Carol Wilhite had hers on commercial, because I was there to meet.
All right, bear with me just a second.
She's the one next to the laundry map.
Okay, bear with me. Put map D.
Map G.
G is in
Next to the
And okay, so correct me if I'm wrong, it's the two long ones, right, in the middle of that.
Well, you got the G6, the blue one there.
Yeah.
And then you got, mine's residential, I'm right beside it. And then you got Carol Wilhite's, and then you got the laundry map.
Okay. And you're thinking Will Height,
Yeah, I'm
and,
next to Carol Wilhite, and she's right beside the laundry map.
but you're thinking she also rezoned?
We got the laundry map there, and Carol Wilhite had her rezoned commercial.
He said he knew Herb was rezoned. He was like, Herb was rezoned. Right.
Yeah, I remember that because, I'm trying to think of the guys. Parigi, was it Howard Parigi that built that?
Yeah.
So you're thinking Will Height and the laundromat are both commercial general? It's, map G is in goodness.
Map G. It's the next one up.
Good catch. And you're to the north of them, right? And what's your name
Yeah,
again?
I'm right beside Carol Wilhite, between G6 and Carol
And what's
Wilhite.
your name again?
Robert Atchison. Robert Atchison.
Gotcha. I was gonna say, I remember, it's been 10, 12
Been a while,
years.
right?
That's right. Like I said, when you started talking, I was like, all right, I knew it started with an A, but I was 1A there, and I wasn't sure. At least I was in the right alphabet.
Now, is that gonna be, continue to be commercial, or are they just gonna?
No,
do R1?
we'll change it back to what it is. That's our goal with these
I mean,
meetings.
mine's still residential, I still got the trailer on the property, you know.
Do you have I've noticed, do you have a for sale sign up
I
at
do.
commercial property?
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I.
Joey Lee, up here in town, he's one that lives here.
No.
All right.
6 acre tract, right?
Yeah.
All right, this gentleman had a comment.
No, you was talking about Webster Lake, the Harrison County portion. What was the acreage of that?
I'm shooting from the hip, I think it's 40, 50, 60 acres maybe.
Okay, the
I could be wrong,
developer
could
that
be 10.
owns that says that he has 100 lots. in
Yeah,
that,
there's
and I
about-
don't see it because there's 52 lots in Webster Lake currently. No, I'm sorry. Yeah, there's 10 houses built, 42 vacant lots. And I can't see that other parcel being more than what's already there.
I'm shooting, and what's your name?
Luke Boswell.
Luke or Luke?
Luke.
Luke. I want to say shoot from the hip, the property that started development and the property that has not is in the neighborhood of 200 total lots. There's a bunch over there.
Really?
Yeah, because what I will say is, that's the DCD, so you have pretty much, I want to say all the ones that are built are on the larger
So
lots.
the DCD portion is buildable, what you're saying?
The DCD is zoned for around 200 and some odd lots, everything that's yellow.
Okay.
And so in a DCD, you have, I'm hoping I say this right, Howard, you know better than me probably in the zoning. You have 3 components. They're all residential, okay? But there's 14,500 square foot lots and larger, and 25% of your total lots have to be that. Then there is a certain amount, I think, less than 10,000, maybe 8,000.
The lots in there currently are a third acre.
Right, they're the 15, right. So what you got is, first of all, they gotta be at least 25% green space. So I'm gonna make it easy math. I'm gonna try to make this easy math. I got 100 acres, so 25 is gonna be green space. Then I gotta have 25 acres that are in 15,000 or 14,500 square foot lots and larger, and they have to have 1,800 square foot homes. Okay?
And there's also-
25% has the allowance to be less than, I wanna say 10,000 square foot lots, and they only have to have a 1,400 square foot house. I'm shooting from the hip. Each one's different. And then the middle 50 has that opportunity. They have to be at least 10,000. And they hit like the 1,600 square foot house. Does that make sense? In other words, it is a master plan community. Now, they have to develop in accordance with the approved plan. If they change anything, they have to come all the way back to the planning commission. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
In other words, it is site plan specific. So now, I know you had some questions there, but I wanted to get through it.
No, that's pretty much it, because, you know, I was asked a question by a neighbor, can they come in and build houses smaller? And based on when I went to the county, the initial planning and proposal was that the lots would all be that size, not less than a third acre. Because the last thing we wanted somebody coming in there and getting quarter acre lots and putting these cookie cutter houses in there.
And they can.
Right. It'd be a nice fight.
I mean, they have that vested right, but, you know.
When they did the covenants, I think that was put into.
Gotcha. So,
that's
right,
what
right. So that's, you've got two competing legal interests. How about that? But I want to make sure I answered something that you didn't really ask, but I heard when the guy said he's got 110 lots, okay? Right now, he's got, in my opinion, I'm not a lawyer, he's got the right to develop that many lots, but right now, he's got one big piece of property.
Right.
In other words, those lots do not exist except in a concept. Does that make sense?
Right.
I kind of wish he had the lots with the tax on it, but. All right. Any other significant changes before I start walking you through the things I saw? That was a good catch. That's what we're looking for.
This, I had two questions. The first one, what would a restaurant be labeled as? General commercial?
Yeah, CG typically.
CG. And then my second question, when I look at the downtown area, you've got, some of them are commercial, some are OI, and so let's just say somebody wanted to put a retail in something that was OI. I mean, so that seems like, because I mean, it's literally one building, but one right next door to the other one is CG, and another one's OI, CG, OI. And then coming back down to where the funeral home is, we're looking at a 20-year outlook here, right? 20 years?
Well, the zoning is today.
Okay.
Okay. So the future land use will look at that in a different light.
Well, my question, my third question, I guess I said two, but my third one since I got more. Let's look at Carroll Road in Villa River. All residential at one time, which is now becoming, I assume, O&I, all the way up Carrollton, or Carroll Street.
The
Carroll?
Yep, South Carroll.
South
Okay.
Carolina.
So what is each person having to do if on their future land use it was all residential? So each person that comes in and buys that home, they have to get each lot rezoned?
My opinion is yes.
So I can see Sage Street doing that potentially
Yes.
one day in my
Yes.
head to green.
Totally agree. Totally agree.
So you got all this R2 down through here. My landlord's gonna love me for this, right? You got all this R2, but it seems like, I guess if somebody wanted to take each home and turn it into a business, planning and zoning board would take each.
In the building.
And so this is how I hope for this to work. Let's make it up. This will be today, okay? Then we're gonna have a discussion on future land use. I don't live here, so I'm trying not to say my opinion, but my opinion in this particular case is Sage Street would become O&I. I believe it's what's going to happen. Okay. Now, you've got to determine what you want the city to look like, okay? So I'm gonna give you ifs and ifs. I'm gonna give you if-then statements, and I'm gonna give you a good case and a bad case, okay? So, let's say you made that O&I. You pretty much made it easy on me to come in and buy and know that I'm going to get the zoning to do an O&I business. That's allowed, that's key. Because I'm going to argue in the zoning case what's on your future land use map. So, the planner side of me is all about getting what you really want the city to look like, but it can be dangerous that now you have people, let's just say you put general commercial somewhere, and I don't know everybody's business. Let's say that in general commercial, and it's not, so don't be scared, you allow stockyards, okay? You know what a stockyard is, up for them? Okay. But nobody in the city wanted it, but future land use shows that general commercial, but you didn't have to know that stockyards was allowed, and this guy shows up and says, well, I want to zone this residential to general commercial, and you go, why? And he goes, stockyard, and you go, no. Well, now he has legal merit to sue you. Because you have said he can go that way in the future.
That's right.
So that's the danger.
Yeah.
So you just
Okay,
take
you
a
know.
case scenario then.
Right. And so one of the comments that were made last time that made a lot of sense is, do we put more neighborhood commercial and less commercial? You know, from a planning perspective, I want you to put what you believe it needs to be. And then maybe we look at the table of uses and restrict there, okay? That's what I would suggest, but it can be done either way. At the end of the day, I think when we get through the zoning map, we get through the future land use map, I think we need to step back and look at the zoning. Well, we got zoning map, future land use map, development code, we got to get done ASAP. And then we'll probably have to be changed in the next 18 months after we adopt it, okay? But we got to get something, a line in the sand. Then you're going to also step back, probably look at your zoning code and your table of uses. Because a lot of things have changed in 10 years that you may or may not want. I can argue both sides. And, you know, I work for developers too, so I argue their side too. I mean, that's what I'm trying to say is, if you get too restrictive, they also have legal merit to sue you because you're not allowing the normal commerce that makes sense for that property. Does that make sense? I mean, I'll tell you a case I've got in Douglasville right now, and Bill will love this one, that I tell this story. There's a piece of property that everybody in the county knows needs to be a quarry, but they've said no. Okay? Now, I represent that client. I don't want a quarry. But what I know is that property ain't gonna be nothing but a quarry. And so that owner has property rights. Okay? And so that's, you know, that's the argument going on right now is because they said no. And let's say, don't tell my client this, I agree with them, but it's in a lawsuit because the property said it's rock. Can't build nothing on it. So I mean, that's the thing that you can be too restrictive and you can create things. But I think you stand a better chance of defending a no vote or a denial on being more restrictive than just going, well, I really don't want that here. Does that make sense? And so that's where I want to say even, and I'm not trying to put Bill on the spot, I want to say even on their future land use, I think it still shows it as industrial. Well, quarries are not under industrial, it's a special use under industrial. So that takes it to another level of review. But I'm just saying, so as we talk about, I wouldn't go in and say the entire 113, the entire 78 neighborhood commercial. I don't think that's realistic. I think you could do half of it. Right? And then your nodes or your corners could be that. And I'm way down the rabbit hole in future land use. But we're going there, Todd, but that's not what we're on right now.
Gotcha.
No, I was just saying, to his point, the downtown area, I mean, the library is considered commercial right now. The drugstore is considered OI. I mean, it's not right.
Yeah, right. Well, I would say the library needs to probably change to O&I, yeah. Because it was CG where it was a bank.
And then you got, I guess, is that superfood considered commercial? That would have one.
Right behind the library that red is,
But it's not red.
So, yeah, and I'll tell you what you see downtown, what you see 90% of downtown is this right here. I mimic those two maps. But I'm fairly certain nothing's changed. I think Mr. Stedham was the one that was asking that last time. So, well, why is this O&I right beside commercial? I can't answer that. Those were the ones where I said, my knowledge that has not changed. And so I mimic that. That doesn't make it right, so I agree. I definitely agree that where the bank used to be, which used to be City Hall, which is now library, that since that is all government owned, I think we go ahead and change that to O&I.
Well, the taxes are different on that, ain't it? All the institutional and the commercial, general commercial, the tax rate will be different, right? Is that what you're saying?
To be honest with you, I don't know. To be honest with you, I don't know.
You think?
I don't know if the county breaks it down that far. I have a feeling, right or wrong, that they're industrial, commercial, residential. That's it. That'd be my gut, but I don't know that. 'Cause I mean,
So all is in institutional fit into commercial.
Probably.
It just fits right.
And
I just wonder why they do.
And I'll tell you something, and this is a decision because my mapping guy's like, wait a minute, and he was right. On government-owned properties, every community does it different, okay? A lot of in other words, government entities technically do not have to follow their own zoning code, okay? Okay, and that where I ran into it is the city developing on a county piece of property, or a county zone piece of property, and the county building on a city piece of property. Technically, that, so if I'm the county and you're the city, but I own property in your city, I can technically come into your city, build a new tax office, and build it to however I want, but I do not have to comply with your zoning code. Legally. Okay, so, yeah, so that's what I've been told here. Again, I'm not a lawyer. So, with all that said, I made a different choice. So a lot of communities will show that, since that was a bank and it was a commercial general zoning, they'll leave it as that. Okay? What I have done for our mapping is anything that is owned by a government entity is O&I. And the reason I do that, in my opinion, is that brings it down. It makes it what it is.
Yeah.
It's institutional. Same thing with the schools, because another argument you can make is,
well, I just wonder about because it's got O&I and then it's got a little streak of general commercial in there. I mean,
right, downtown.
yeah.
Yeah.
One
And that's where somebody,
and most businesses are the same. I was wondering if it was done that way because it was taxed instead of something at a time. Or
my guess is in the use code, it said I could not sell clothes.
yeah.
And I'm not saying it does, I'm using me guessing. So let's say O&I in the old code says I couldn't sell clothes. I had to rezone from O&I to CG to be a retail establishment to sell clothes. Does that make sense? So it's in that use chart table that allows what each, in each commercial general, there might be, I'm saying 45 or 50 different uses that are covered under CG. So most likely, if they went from OI to CG, what they were wanting to do was not on that use table of O&I. And so that forced them into a rezone.
That's what I wanted to be, and all this right next to each other. I just wondering why the discretion was there.
And that could be something where the city would step back and say, do we want to relook at this whole area, create a downtown development or a downtown district that makes it a little easier for a property owner or a service provider to provide any of those. Because do you care if they're retail? There may be a different district that you take some of the CG stuff, some of the O&I, some of the other things, and it's a new district that allows some flexibility. But I'm not saying it's going to happen tomorrow, but think about what Carrollton has done with the residential above the commercial. Think about what Billerica has done a little bit of. I don't see that tomorrow, but if somebody came in and wanted to do that, right now he's got no way of doing it in the city of Temple. So that's just something that we may want to, There's a big old pie we need to handle. I'm trying to keep us on this slice. Yes, sir.
You made mention about if the county-owned property in the city, they could just come in and build whatever they want because they don't have to follow their building codes, but they still have to follow state and federal
Yes,
code.
yes. It's a zoning. In other words, if we had a stipulation that everything had to be 4 sides of brick, they don't technically have to. Now, in every instance I've been in with the city in Carroll County and Douglas, we worked together and we tried to comply. Okay, but I'm just saying, you know, you have to pay attention to those things, and you have to understand where they're at. And because one of the things you have is if I wanted to rezone, you always want to stop spot rezoning. Okay, it's going to happen. But if I'm out here and Linda's residential, Bill's residential, Dwayne's residential, I'm residential, but I want to be a commercial. Okay, you got to make up your mind whether or not you expect all this to be commercial. Okay, because I'm going to change it. Dwayne, let's say Dwayne's a government entity. Okay, technically. So you give me a commercial general. Well, now Bill can argue that he touches me because he doesn't necessarily have zoning, so he can bounce through Dwayne. He's actually adjacent to me, so he has an argument for general commercial because it's now no longer spot zoning. Same thing with a school, you know, an annexation. So what I'm saying is, those are things you have to watch for, because you may be thinking, well, I can stop. I mean, think about what we dealt with on Chapel Hill Road, trying to stop. I mean, there was a line drawn on the hand that said, here's where we want to end commercial. And it's continued to creep for the most part, but it was a battle. But luckily the council said, this is where we're going to stop it, and they've held that ground. Then what happened, all these people over here zoned into the county, and all of a sudden here creep down this side of the road. So the best laid plans don't always work, is really the moral of that story. But it's just, you know, zoning is not easy. It's, you know, it's got a lot of places to bite you. And like I say, I stand before cities and counties all the time and argue on the other side. Okay, so I think that's one of the insights I bring to you guys. I tell you where we argue from. And but you know, at the end of the day, one thing I know for sure, you will get sued over a zoning case. It's going to happen. I mean, you know, it's just part of life. Yes, sir.
Well, like I said, on mine here, since I'm residential, and I got R6 on one side of me and commercial on the other, how's that going to affect me if I sell the property? I mean, are they going to have a problem getting that zone?
I wouldn't think so. I think you have an option to go either one.
Okay.
I think you actually sit in the catbird seat, because now you can sell, you can potentially market to a commercial or an R6.
All right.
I'm not going to say what this council and commission will do, but I'm saying you have,
Right, yeah.
you have that argument. But there again, I think that if you look back at the future land uses we worked on before, we always saw Rockin' D Road as a commercial,
Right, yeah.
and light industrial, you know, how about this, a commerce center. And that is one of the things that remind me when we get to the future land use, a way Douglas County does it, and right, wrong, or indifferent. They don't use these same, in other words, what they have on their zoning map is not the things they use in their future land use. I'm not sure exactly why they do it. My belief is they do that to create some ambiguity so that they can argue whichever side of the fence they want to. That's what I believe. And that's not necessarily a bad thing if you're on the city side, right? In other words, you look at their zoning map, there ain't nothing called a commerce center. And you look at their future land use, and there's 20 different types of commerce centers. Okay? And so, you know, from my stand, when I'm trying to figure out what zoning I need to argue into, you know, I have to just go sit down with the county and negotiate. And that's what they want. All right. So I'm sorry I went way down a rabbit hole there. Any other changes before I start walking through ours?
I got a couple of things that you missed that we had talked about.
Okay.
If you look on map D.
Yep.
Look on Highway 78. Going west from the intersection of 113. On the right where you got O&I, you know, that was rezoned last year back to.
That's Baxter.
Baxter.
That needs to go back to R2.
Yeah. whatever the rest of it.
Yep, sorry
And
about that.
also, where the police department is, it's showing commercial. Should we have it overnight?
Yep,
Now it's time to change
yep,
that, right?
yep, yep, yep.
Fire department also.
Yeah.
Yep,
Yeah, it's showing,
yep. And so that's where I'm getting into that, where the old maps showed it as where the base zoning was, but I'm trying to bring everything forward. But we even debated about having a true government color, not O&I, but you know, you can get too busy in my opinion.
And Old Mill Road is not there. It doesn't exist anymore.
It does, well, right. The right-of-way still exists
right-of-way is
based
still
on
there,
the
yeah.
mapping. And one thing I'll point out to you, so what we did, go back to page 1, for instance, and some of this stuff I've got to verify. At the end of the day, for zoning, it doesn't really matter, okay? But like up here where Dr. Boss was talking about on Moore Road, I still labeled it as Moore Road, I just colored it in where you can't see it. It's probably what I'll do on the old mill, you know, because here again, this is not a survey, right, you know. As I say, there used to be a driveway back there, yeah.
There is a house. There's a lake back there.
Got anything else, Mr. Howard?
All right, let's talk about the one on map D that you got. The only one is R6C.
Oh,
Let's talk about that, because that's the only one on there. Let's talk about the conditions.
yes.
About Bell Terrace.
Yes. All right, so I kind of created a zoning classification for you. It's not really creating one. Anytime a rezoning case is done, and this is something we need to try to track further and further in the future, you can place conditions, okay? And technically, all the DCDs have conditions, okay? But the reason I marked this one specifically is this guy got approval for an R6. But R6 is typically townhomes, okay? But he specifically requested it to be single-family homes, and that was approved, okay? So, that was a condition, or it was a site plan-specific zoning. So the reason I put the CE in there is so that, because if I don't, somebody can come in right there and they can build townhomes. And that was, in my opinion, not the intent of council and the commission.
What was it when we had the drawing of a little narrow, single-family homes there? Was it R2?
It was R6 with conditions.
But then he wanted it, at some point, he wanted it R2.
He wanted it to go back to just a standard.
Oh, just the standard
Trailers.
R6 for the mobile home?
Yes.
Okay. But you're saying we just need to leave it R6 with conditions, so whatever anybody wants to do with it.
They got to match that plan and come back to you.
Probably a good spot for that.
You know, I'll get, and the whole reason is there's a lot of houses down in that area that were put in. So I think just to go down there and start building townhomes against them by right is not the intent of these two bodies. So that's why I added that.
But the R6 lots would be like, what, 6,000?
There is no lots on R6. Let me back up, yes, sir. A standard R6 lot is, I think your code's a minimum of 2,000 square feet.
Small lot,
Well, no, it's a
Townhome.
townhome. And I think the end units have to be 2,400 square feet
Okay,
lots.
we'll have to deal with that when,
It's gonna come up, but if you would have zoned it R6, and he came in and y'all are allowing single-family homes, not by a zoning condition, then I would have it R6. But to me, that was a site plan specific zoning. In other words, it did not neatly fit into any of your zoning classifications. And so, it was kind of like a special land use with the zoning, okay? And that's why I put the C with conditions. Does that make sense? I know I threw you a curve, it's a good catch, I'm glad you brought that up. Why? We debated that in the office, that was not on it last time.
Right.
So could, with this new craze, these tiny homes, say that somebody wanted to develop back there, tiny homes would fit on a 2,000 square foot.
Where you would get them, well, these lots were 7,500 square foot minimum, something like that. Maybe let's just say they were somewhere between 5,000 square foot and 7,500 square foot.
Around 6,000.
Right, I think they were around 6,000. Okay, and there was a square footage put on the house also. So that whole package of what that guy got approved is what would have to hold. So the tiny house, even though, I mean, you could do that kind of product, but you'd still have to meet, I think it was like a 1,500 square foot house.
Yes.
But with the C on there, it could be done, right?
Tiny homes are not allowed.
Well,
Period. The building code.
right, I'm just saying from they would still have to meet all those conditions. And I just don't know them all by heart. I know a certain minimum lot size, a certain frontage for streets, a certain house size, and probably even a certain house out exterior. I just don't remember exactly what they were.
The housing that was approved on that was little narrow homes. that-
Shotguns.
Shotgun type houses.
They were like the reflections in Mirror Lake. If anybody's familiar with that, that was the thought process. And I will tell you, there's a huge need for those.
Like a lot of homes in Alpharetta and Mossville area.
You know, it's usually a mature family.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, the ones in Mirror Lake, I'm trying to buy one for my mom, and they don't even hit the street. I mean, I've got a chance to buy one, but it hadn't hit the street. But I know he's moving the next January. And I've been looking for 2 years. So, I mean, I can't afford to build one. So I'm saying, if you could, you'd do well. That's where I'm headed to.
Howard,
So, yes, sir.
On Mr. Seddon's pasture land, I noticed you left out the designation there.
It's right there.
You see it on map D.
It's right there. Yeah.
And it's,
It's still just that R1 color.
It's just R1 color, but it's not, that is actually under a conservative.
Yes, yeah.
How do you?
So when we redid the code, there used to be a RD, rural development. Does that sound right, Lester, or anybody? Which was 5-acre tracts, 4-acre tracts, and larger. Okay. Actually, I'm not sure if y'all had that. That might have been the already. Y'all had an R40. Okay, which were your large 1 acres and bigger. Okay. One of the things we missed when we redid the zoning code is we did not allow, and in the future, an agriculture. Okay, so if I read the zoning code today, I would venture to say there's a lot of people in non-compliance because typically farm animals are only allowed on 5 acres and larger. Okay, that was not the intent. So what we've talked about is through this process is updating that zoning code and basically putting some exemptions in there for people that have always had farm animals, and they always can. And then also leaving the door open for a special land use for, you know, the R1s and larger tracts. We've got to think through that. I don't know, and we may have that in the R1 zoning book, but I haven't read it recently, so I can't answer that. But I know when Mr. Stedham was here the other night, he hit me. I was like, we may have trapped him. We may have trapped the mayor unintentionally. Following me?
Yeah, because, I noticed that on the tax rolls is a conservative, you know.
Right. And all I'm saying is typically most communities 5 acres and larger can have
Yeah,
animals.
and he definitely has.
Right. But it would have to typically be zoned agricultural, but we don't
Have an animal.
But yeah, we do have agricultural properties. And so that's where we need to do it more in the legal document
Documentation of it, okay.
of allowed uses. There needs to be an allowed use under R1. And then there also needs to be something written in that exemption so that if Mr. Harmon's, Mayor Harmon's property's been a horse farm, it can continue to be a horse farm, even if he sells it. Because most likely he sells it, he's going to be selling it as a horse farm, right? Right, so you don't want to trap, you know, so I believe that he has inherent, I hate to pick on you, Mayor, but it's easy because I know your property. He has an inherent right, in my opinion, that is established and proven. And we, or Howard, I'll say Howard, inadvertently wrote him in non-compliance, possibly, I'm not saying it's there, but, so that's something I need to check. Because there's a lot of properties, I mean, you got a lot down at Center Point,
Yeah, and,
you know, there's a lot of properties. So we have to think that out.
O&I that's on 78 there, there was R6 and then O&I, what is that?
The O&I's, the
I know
medical
what
center.
that is, but what?
Rafa Medical Clinic,
Huh?
probably the medical clinic.
Yeah,
Rafa.
right.
Oh, okay, yes, okay. I'm sorry, you're right.
And then there's a couple of duplexes and
I
stuff.
thought it was further down from the Rocky
Mhm.
Clinic, but yeah, no, you're right, you're correct, yeah.
All right, everybody good? I'm gonna spin through my comments, 'cause I know we're way down, but we did what I wanted to do, is just have that general conversation. Like I said, there's tons of things we can talk about through these meetings, and the main thing to me is get this one to a point we can approve it, and then we can continue moving through the thought process of the 1,000 things I got in my head. I'm gonna go through, this is my markup from last meeting and so forth, and I'm just going to real quickly show you things. First thing on the first page, it's the corner of, where'd you go? Lakeview and Old Green. That property was given over to the city, so I've changed that. It was dedicated, and the developer was supposed to build a park for y'all, but it's there, it's O&I. So I changed that. There's a tract on Milner Street. Come on, guys. Across from the ball fields, that is now O&I, or I'm sorry, R6. It's around the letter M. You see that on the new map?
Yeah, right there, I know your point.
Okay. Map B was the same Milner property, so there's nothing really to look at there. They're going over to map C. And the reason I'm going over these, I want to make sure that everybody agrees with the edits we made. Looking here. The one thing I did was trim off this little red spur line out here on the side. That's the one that Haralson County. It must be a part of a piece of property, but at the end of the day, it just looks weird, so I deleted it. Because that red piece of property was showing as in the city from the county. Can't remember the guy told me, because I kept asking where it was. There was a discrepancy between the Atlanta Regional Commission county line and the GIS Carroll County line. I just took the one that looked the cleanest. Because there again, it's not a survey. I don't care exactly where that corner of the property is.
Where is this home?
I took part of your property now. So, see right here, there was just something that was highlighted here, that they're showing that it's actually in the city. But I got a little gap there, and at the end of the day, what it is if you look at the county, this gray line came from Atlanta Regional, and it's not in the road, it's actually over a little bit, where it probably should be going down that road. And is this yours? This is you. Yeah, so I think whoever's south of you might, that property, the original property may be over that roadway. In other words, if you look, see how this property line, if I had to guess, goes just like when they bought that property, they probably bought. You following me? But that county line is there, but the big black line, there's a question of, at the end of the day, that's probably in Temple, because it's probably part of that original property. But it's so skinny they're not going to build on it. So to me, it just makes my map look ugly. Y'all must be getting tired. Nobody's laughing at my jokes. All right, I'm going to map D. We're going C.
Okay, right here where the little subdivision is on R4, we're going behind General barbecue. You got that little T-shaped R6 in there. What is that?
I don't believe that's R6, that should be R2. Good catch.
It shows green.
Yeah, that's it.
But that's swampland up there.
No, there's actually a lot there.
Is it a lot?
Yeah, I did that subdivision, and that was a nightmare, those people, I'm trying to be nice, they were from down in Florida. They migrated to Florida, so I'll tell you all you need to know. Their access to the property was through an easement where that old 2-inch water line went off of 78, down through there. That was their access, okay, to the, I want to say there might have been a trailer back there when I first started working with the city. That was not a platted easement. It was a prescribed easement. In other words, they had used it over a certain number of years, so they had rights to that access. When we built the road, we dedicated them an ingress-egress to that lot from that road. So that's when you following me? And because we tried to buy them. Is it buildable? In my opinion, anything's buildable with enough money, okay? But it would not be an easy build because it's in the floodplain. They'd have to get certifications and all that stuff.
So the lot is not part of the subdivision?
Correct.
Okay, I got you. I remember that.
Right. And and it may be R6, come to think of it. Let me look at that.
If it wasn't part of the subdivision, it is R6.
Not, well, this shows, I don't know if it's R6 or R40. My guess is it was R6. Looking at those two, it's hard to see. You got your glasses so you can see better than I can, probably. See that? There's that road. It's that track right there.
All of that was R6, and we down
That's
from
right.
it to R4.
So it's correct. It's R6. You're right, because there was somebody who came on the, right.
That was more houses. That's one of the deals like he was talking about. They asked 9 houses, and then they built some little small ones back there. I guess it didn't take as much.
That's Arbor Landing. That's
Yeah,
what
I
that was
think
called.
so.
Yeah. I'm gonna make this statement, please don't repeat it, even though I got a camera on. It's something you need to look at is your house square footage. What are you right now, 1250? It's not my place to say, because like I say, I work with developers too. But the question is, do you have enough at that level? The Carroll County or Douglas County is at 1,800. The only thing I will tell you is that Douglas County felt like they could dictate quality houses through sizing. I don't believe that, because they came out with a product now that looks like a big matchbox, this big rectangle, and it's like 3,000 square foot, but they can build it for the same price. They can build a nice 1,500 square foot craftsman. You just got to figure out what you want to be, and it's not for me to say. My mom, she wants 1,500 square foot max, so there is a need for those smaller ones. It's just you got to figure out what you want, and that may be, you may need to allow that size house in certain zonings, and maybe there's a new zoning category. I don't know, or it may just simply that every time you do a rezoning, that's where you get the extra. That's when the negotiation starts, when somebody comes in rezoning. Because most people, because you have the DCD, because you have the R6, because you have the R4, they're going to come looking for density. Personally, I'm not against density, but that's your time to get while the getting's good. And that may be house square footage, that may be amenities, whether it's a pool, tennis court, whether it's walking trails, whether it's paying into a fund that builds trail system to the city. I mean, those are things you have to think about. They're going to say no every time you ask, but I promise you, if you give them the density, they'll give you what you want.
That's like when we did Webster Lake, we were able to get the turning lane at the elementary school out of there.
Correct.
They did that for us. We just kind of squeezed them a little bit. John remember a little.
Right. As long as they can get the density, they're usually very willing to work with it. I think this is too aggressive for Temple, but I think it's something that we want to think about is every time a subdivision, I'll get off that rabbit hole. Every time a new subdivision is built and we build these 1,500 square foot house or lots, 15,000 square foot lots, you know, you got 80 foot of frontage or whatever it is, and you get these long roads, and all those roads come onto the taxpayers. In other words, you're going to maintain them forever. Okay? So one thing that seems to be the norm right now is, let's say I've got 100 acres. Now, most likely I'm going to come ask for a DCD, and I'm going to try to get about 250 lots. Okay? You could set it up where we're not going to do that, but we'll give you 100 lots, 1 per acre, density of 1, but we'll let you put them on what house lot size you want, but we might want 1,800 square foot houses, and hopefully then you're going to instead of inherit the city inherit 5 miles of roads and water system and sewer system, maybe you get 2 miles. Same tax dollars, but less infrastructure. I'm not saying that's where we want to go, but that's the kind of thoughts that I want you to think about, like Serenbe. Serenbe's, if you'd have told me 10 years ago, 15 years ago, Serenbe had a chance, I'd have laughed at you. Okay? I'd have laughed at you. And they're killing it. But what I like about it is they don't have all that infrastructure. Not saying that's what we want to do yet, but it's a thought process. Don't always think bigger lots are better. I think you need them in certain places. I think there's a variety for everybody, you know, and that's what the future land use will be talking about is how do we carve out niches. I mean, like Douglas County is a perfect example. You got over there near, closer to the city, you've got these smaller 10,000 square foot lots and smaller. Then you get out on the west side, it's all 3 acres. So you've got a, right or wrong, good or bad, you've got a very diverse community, right? So, because you've given people that might want the bigger lots or the farms an opportunity to still live in the county, but you got the millennials that might want to live over here in the city to live in. So, I'm not saying you're Douglas County, but I'm saying that's the thought processes into where do we want to go, what is it you want? And then you try to leave pockets that will allow that. I don't say you just set it all over the county, all over the city. I think you have to be diligent and think about where you want certain things like that. You know, but one of the things I do believe will happen, I don't know that it'll happen in this building cycle, is you've got out there on Venable Road roughly 900 zone lots. Okay? I think it's Venable, right? Okay. Well, to me, that's a site plan specific. Well, most likely the developer's not going to build based on somebody else's zoning or layout because there's only 60 built, so their palette is open. That to me would be one like Saren. That to me, that's where you have the opportunity to reduce some of that infrastructure, but yet keep the yield, keep the density. Now, personally, I don't think that's the area to have 900 lots because there's a little bit of access, but a lot of work done to Venable, Centerpoint, and Billings to be able to get that traffic out. But I'm just saying that would be a place I can see that would make sense. Versus, I wouldn't necessarily come over here off of Taylor's Gin, East Johnson, and take a 200, 300 acre tract there and drop in 400 or 500 homes because I got to get across that railroad track. Because over here you got a pretty well set 1,400, 500 square foot lots in 90% of the subdivision over there. I think the only ones watered edge that you're going to have some of the smaller lots in the later phases. So be careful where you put it. If you've got something established, try to hold that establishment. That's what I'm saying. All right, get out of that rabbit hole. All right.
Map B?
Yep, map D.
On Rome Street, Wisconsin Rome Street, going up around that large curve right there, there's commercial. There's a house.
Yeah.
There's a house.
Yeah. The one across from Tommy's?
Yes, that's the one.
Yep. We talked about that last time too, guys. I apologize. Yeah, I think that's R1 just like Tommy's, I believe.
I believe so.
Okay. All right, everybody ready to go to E? The one change I made here, and I'll be honest with you, I'm still not positive of it, but I feel as good about it, I guess, as some of the other stuff, is right beside Water's Edge. I can't remember the original property owner's name there, that it was left there, and the subdivision was basically built around him. I think he was always the 14,500 square foot lot, so I moved him to R2, just to the left of Water's Edge Parkway. Gotcha. So that was the only change I made on that sheet. Map F. On map F, we did not change that. We missed that. The one thing I see that I missed there. All right, we're on map F. Most fence below we think is R2, not CG. And then same thing.
On the north side of 20 something?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And then the other change I made was on his track here that runs down Center Point. Here, I changed that from CG to R1. So this I changed to R2, or I did not, I should have. In other words, you're looking at the old one. But then I'm pretty sure Mo's R1 right there.
What is this little cutout road? That Middle Road.
I need to check, but I think they're still county property.
Is that county, is that what that means? Oh, you know, if you have a dotted line in there, that's county property?
Yeah.
I was wondering about that on like map 1 over here too.
And see, I would argue that should not be because it's landlocked.
Yeah.
You know, legally, should not, I don't want to say cannot happen because it happens all the time. It should not happen. You know, either there should have been a strip left out Venable, you know, whether it, you know, somewhere there should have been a strip left to touch right away of the county.
And you couldn't do that now, but years ago you could create driveways.
Yeah.
So is there anything there or is it?
Where's that at?
Right to the entrance of, I guess that's Azalea Hills. Is that the name of it?
That's where those big tracks and the triplex are.
I think there's something in there.
Yeah. There's big tracks and triplex.
Great.
I guess what the place.
Map G. We did learn about the Will Height and that track stuff. I changed Janus to IL, light industrial, and this is just a general question. I kind of think the whole entire industrial part was light industrial. Do you remember, Mayor? I'm thinking the whole industrial park is light industrial, or is it heavy? I can't remember.
I think it is.
What do you think, Howard?
I think it was light, but I think at one point we talked about concrete plants and stuff. They would have to be heavy industrial and we would rezone it if something like that comes in. We'd go from light to heavy, I think.
I mean, here's the danger. If we go and we make it all light now, and they have a heavy user, we can run them off. Right? Now, council and the commission were probably very interested in working with them. The question is, would they take the time to do that? Now, the piece that is south of East Loop Road, that was just recently rezoned. Do you know if it was light or heavy? Do you remember? It was light?
What was that?
I think they're all light, so I mean,
Well, this one's got heavy.
I know.
This is
I
the
know.
Luke garage, it's a garage.
Well, actually, no, he's out here.
That's not it?
Mhm.
No, that's part of it, too. That's the garage, too.
Okay.
So I figured the whole thing's here.
Well, this was bought by the development authority.
Okay. I'm close spot right here, this is the garage.
Gotcha.
Got it.
So, does anybody have an issue with changing all that light industrial?
The whole thing?
I think the whole thing's light. That's what I remember. I got to looking at the other day.
We did, Crystal, take a look and see what you find anything on the rezoning.
And Kristen, if you'll help me remember, we can reach out to, Andy may already be gone. I don't know if y'all know that Andy can't be up. If you'll help me remember, I'll reach out to Daniel and maybe even Andy and see what he believed it was. And then if he believed it's light industrial, then I say we change it. If he thinks it was heavy, then I think we continue to do our research. Just to, we don't want to run off a good user, you know.
Because you didn't get it rezoned for.
Right. And if we do find it's all light and the Carroll Tomorrow wants it heavy, then I think we need to think about the properties that are undeveloped, having them come back to us for that, if we put some conditions on it. But, all right, I can help run that rabbit. Kristen, you're going to be my reminder,
Yes, sir.
okay?
Yep.
I think we talked about heavy industrial would be anything that you did
Smokestacks.
steam.
And that's why I think we don't have it. But I know,
Down there that
I guess since they didn't come, I can tell. I do know the candy manufacturer, they were smokestack. Because that was their whole thing they kept asking was, how high can I go? And I remember they were limited to 35 feet above the right of way. And we gave, one thing we did give them was the right of way of I-20, not the cul-de-sac. I don't know if I can call them a smokestack, but they were going up, and if they're going up, there's usually a reason. You're trying to get something out, right? And that's one thing they did say, is that there would be a strong odor. I do remember, because, you know, they're just dealing with chemicals. It's not cane sugar anymore. All right, got a good many changes on this page, guys. Primarily, it is in the neighborhood of, I believe, what they call Man Road. And I've got to get the roads are drawn in. But that's all industrial there that Mr. Mortensen owned. That's across from what he was talking about with the Will Heights. And then when we did this here with Ingles and all that, that was all CG. And then that was zoned R6 for that Brad Parks ended up buying that. So those are the things that we call. I did not change anything on H. That's it. Go ahead. What you got?
Nothing really. That was not the city limits of the Temple
It's county.
County. Why? Well, I know that was
well,
all
okay.
sold to the city. That's all spray fields out there. The purple, that's
The spray fields are technically in the county.
in the county?
Yes. And the reason I say that, unless something changed, we were rezoning when the city first brought me on, we were getting ready to expand down there. And we were going through the rezoning and annexation to bring all that in. And the people that live here in this county area were raising cane.
Right.
Right, wrong, or different. And I will say, and I think the mayor would agree with me, I didn't blame them. Because when I drove into Temple, I could smell the plant.
Yeah.
I mean, and now I knew what it was. I know they did because they lived across from it, which they don't anymore, I would hope, right? You know, so they knew we were expanding. And if it,
Oh, there's still people living in there.
yeah, but I'm saying, if you were living across from a pootie plant, you knew that it was a pootie plant because you smelled it that strong every day, you probably don't want them expanding, right? And so at that point in time, what I remember is the city said, you know what? We don't have to annex. We don't have to zone. Let's move on. And we stopped in process, is what I remember. So even though it's city, even though it's city owned, technically in the county. And that's why those properties are allowed to do that.
Plausible deniability.
Yes.
Okay, I guess.
The definition of it, or is?
Yeah,
whatever it was.
I was just wondering about that, because when I saw that, I thought,
Yeah.
I needed to see that, that, the whole waste treatment area.
All right, that's what I've got, and I know I'm way down the rabbit hole, it's already 7:30, wow.
The comment I would make to the planning commission and also to the mayor's council is that the idea of trying to get things wrapped up on the zoning map by the October 2nd meeting of the council, we said years ago, but it needs to be something that y'all are comfortable with. So with all that we've talked about, if the planning commission in a few minutes, if you're not, a little while, you're not comfortable with acting on this, or with your schedule, could we get just the planning commission back together next week, latter part of the week?
Yeah, I need to grab my calendar.
And that would let them act, and then it would still come to the council on October 2nd. But if we don't do it on October 2nd, we got budget meetings going on, so the council will be having a couple of special meetings during the month of October. Because it's better when we do it, be it the way you want it, rather than rushing to get it done 2 or 3 weeks early and you not be happy with what you got.
Yeah, and I'm saying another option would be for me to, as we make these revisions, to try to email them out to everybody, and I can drop them off at City Hall and you come by and look at them. I mean, we got a couple of different things. I need, the GIS guy that does my mapping right now is part-time. He's back in school, so I just gotta work with his calendar to make sure that he can produce it. I don't see more than about 3 or 4 hours worth of work, so I don't see a problem. I just need to double check that. But I guess the question is, would you be comfortable with me emailing or dropping off, or do you want to do a public meeting? I'm good with either. Well, you're gonna have a public meeting at some point in time, because they gotta approve it, don't they?
Well, the council will.
The planning
Planning
commission
commission does
has to vote to
too.
send it to the
Yes.
council.
We have, we have to vote. It's an even war situation there. I'd much rather have another meeting to go over everything instead of everybody looking at it.
Yeah.
Through different eyes, different ways. A lot more work needs to be done, I believe, on getting it together.
Well, main thing is y'all to be comfortable with whatever, like it's,
And to the benefit of the citizens, we gotta make sure we get the money.
If my guy can do the work, I can probably meet next Tuesday, possibly next Wednesday night. I think he can do it. I mean, I hate to overpromise for him, but if y'all want to look at your calendars and let Bill know, or do we want to try to tentatively set something? How do you want to do it, Bill?
I'm fine with whatever you do.
That'll just be for the planning commission.
Planning commission, yes. I think we're down to the point where I mean, it looks like we're like less than 10 properties.
Let's check with our guys and see how their schedules look. I can't make it Tuesday, I can make it Wednesday.
Don't care.
You want to go for Wednesday, and then I'll just email you, Jeff?
Wednesday.
It doesn't matter, either day, doesn't matter. Whatever's better for you, how
You ready?
Wednesday.
Wednesday's
Wednesday.
27th.
I'm trying to open it up so we can do it. Come on. Yeah, so I mean, 5:30 would be okay with me. That works for everybody. On Wednesday.
And of course, any of the elected officials who wanted to come, there's some good discussion.
I know it's so entertaining.
Learning a lot. Actually, all of this is learning a lot. City Hall,
Oh, yes, we can.
When you say right there?
Go to City Hall, is that what you want to do?
Yeah, we do.
What day is that?
Wednesday.
The 20,
27.
Well, I mean, what I would suggest, because we're so late already, is let's do that, and then that'll give me a chance to spend some time with planning commission, just a real brief on future land use. And then, that'll at least get them to sort of thinking about that, and then after we get to the vote in October, we can sort of look at mid-October or so to really pick up the ball hard with the future land use, if you're okay with that.
And I'd say one thing, to the planning commission, Ms. Williams, y'all don't need to have a separate meeting now. This next week's meeting, we what you do instead.
I use it all the time.
Actually, it's been like we've learned a lot, really listen to you talk.
Well, and like I say, I'm you know, again, just out, I'm a gabber. But I'm trying to tell you the way I think. And so that gets you thinking. Because at the end of the day, you have to figure out how you want it to look. I'm just telling you, I'm trying to tell you pitfalls, pluses, minuses, goods, bads. It can be done 1,000 ways. At some point in time, somebody's going to put you in the arm bar and challenge you. But, you know, at the end of the day, that's what we'll be relying on attorneys. That's what they get paid for big bucks. I think I'm good. I'm not sure if the mayor's running this one or Randy. I think the mayor's in charge of this one, right? I think I'm done.
Yes, we're ready to close this meeting, correct? Your motion to close this meeting? Motion to Mr. Bracknell, your second.
Second.
Second, Mr. Long. Discussion on favor, signify by saying aye. Any opposed, that's carried. Thank y'all, and see you
Sam, you
next
can collect the entire
Wednesday. We got another short.
Well, I'm sorry. All night there, Mr. Bell. Get away on the rabbit hole, but I'd rather get
We will call the second meeting of order. I hear a motion to approve this published agenda.
Make a motion to approve it.
Got a motion, Mr. Bracknell, for a second. Discussion on it, signify by saying aye. Okay. Item 1 on the old business is item that was tabled from September 14 minutes of contract service agreement with Ashley Swan for the period of September the 12th through December 31st, 2017 for services pertaining to the sale not to exceed 25 hours a month at an hourly rate of $25 for training of new personnel not to exceed a total of 32 hours at an hourly rate of $30. With funding from both areas, come out of the water and sewer fund. Mr. Oster.
Yes, first thing you may want to do, Mr. Mayor, is we need your vote to take this off the table before we start any discussion on it.
We'll take this off the table for discussion.
Need a motion or action.
Taking the agenda item off.
It was a tabled item. You have to bring it off the table before we can
So
discuss
I make a
it.
motion, we put it back on the table?
Yes.
Motion to Mr. Bracknell, put it back on the table. Second, Mr. Walden. Any discussion? Favor, signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Okay, Mr. Johnson.
We did have, and you've got information that I think Chris has given to you, the agreement that our attorneys have drawn up that we didn't have with us last Thursday night. What this would do is Ashley Swan is the individual in the Villa Rica Finance Department that's been working with our staff, not well on the conversion from Harris HPS to Cassell, but she also has taken the lead in taking the information, actually processing it so that we get the billing done. We do have in the morning, we have the new employee starting that you had approved last Thursday night, Samantha Knight. So we are pretty green in there now. And talking with several of you, my hope is that as our people catch on with this, we may not need Ms. Swan services more than a couple of months, and then we may be able to operate on our own. We may not need 32 hours of training. Ms. Knight may catch on to everything in a couple of say, 16 hours. So these are maximums, but we would want to keep it as to a minimum cost, and hopefully we'll be through before December. But the reality is, at the moment, is that we do not have staff that's ready to go solo with what we would be doing.
Okay, any discussion? Yes, sir, Mr. Rhodes.
Do we have discussion before the motion? I mean, I don't matter, I just.
Well, yeah, okay, do I hear a motion that we approve this contract? Ms. Ashley Swan.
Motion to approve the contract.
A motion from Mr. Paul. Who second?
I second.
Mr. Bradford, second. Okay, any discussion? Okay, Mr. Rock.
One of the things that Bill said is keep it to a minimum. Now, Pam's gone, I'm well aware of that, and she's not coming back. But I feel like sometimes we get forced into decisions without having full scope of what's going on. We have already paid Ms. Swan to train our temp. And we've hired somebody else already to replace the temp, which is fine. But she's trained. We pay the staffing agency $18 an hour. Why couldn't we use her to train our new person? So that's, I know we've asked her to stay on board for a couple extra days, but if she's good enough to stay on board to train for those few extra days, I don't understand why we couldn't consider, we're paying $18 an hour to the staffing agency, right? So I just want us to look at the whole picture here. We've already paid Swan to train one, so let's take the one she trained and use her to train the new person.
Two points. One, and that's a good observation. And what the training that Ashley has focused on with the temp is so that she can handle people coming in to pay the bills, to process, all of that. What the temp could not do, Kate's a very smart lady, but she could not put your water bills out at the end of the month. She has not been trained to do that. She's been trained to operate at the front desk. Keep in mind that she came in, about the 20th of August, and as they were wrapping up. So I don't have anybody, and Kristen and I had talked about keeping Kate on a couple of days longer because of just what you said. For her to train Samantha as much as she can with what Kate has done. But Kate has not done everything that's got to be done.
Okay. So who was doing the billing before? Pam?
Pam, partly, but a large part of it was handled by City of Villa Rica. I mean,
right. Previous to our contract with them.
And Pam handled it when it was Harris TBS.
Right.
And Pam was just in the learning curve at the time that she left.
Sure.
because the system, as we know, we had all the problems back in the spring. So Pam would be able to, if she were there, she would have a better knowledge than Kate would. But Pam was getting a lot of assistance in terms of the information that Kristen gave you. You'll see on that services, the Exhibit A lists the different things that Ashley would be responsible for in training Samantha to be able to do. But
well, just from my understanding, I'm just trying to save us some money. I mean, the book, I was told there's a book, and all you got to do is follow the steps in the book. So with Kate's knowledge that she does have in the book, I mean, are you, I'm asking you, is Kate not capable of doing this job? If we were to even consider it, is Kate capable of doing the training? Using the book in her knowledge?
Kate is capable of doing some training on Samantha, but what I'm saying is that Kate has not been trained to be able to do all the things that Ashley had done, that Ashley needs to train Samantha to do.
Well, like I said at the council meeting, Ashley, I mean, she's screwing up the bills. My personal water bill, we had the same problem we had before. Like it didn't make any difference. You know, we had people with missing bills, we got people with doubled up bills, we got people with bad reads, and all of that's still going on with Ashley at the helm of things. I mean, I went and paid my water bill today, and it was 2 months worth. Now, granted, you know, I know the water bill's coming on the 20th. You go pay your water bill by the 20th, but I still should have received a bill, and that's a mistake that Ashley, the expert, that we're going to pay all this money that she made. Do people make mistakes? Sure. But I'm just questioning I'm questioning the amount of money that we're spending. We've already spent a lot of money, and this is just going to be continuing to spend. Now, I value your professional opinion on whether she can do the job or not. So that's why I'm asking the question. I just wanted the rest of the council to think before we jump into a contract that we may have other options. And oftentimes, I don't feel like we get the options.
Well, frankly, I'm not sure you got many options in this particular. What the option you do have is trying to make sure that we spend the least amount of money under this as possible. I don't have anybody that I have on staff that I think can handle everything that's got to be done right now. There's got to be some additional training. And of course, Samantha comes in the morning and will be picking up, and I think she will catch it quickly. To the extent that we can make this shorter than the end of December, to the extent that we will not need 32 hours of training overall for Samantha, we can do that. The 25 hours per month, it is possible that by the time we get to this time next month, that we've got Samantha where she can go forward with it, we may not need anywhere near that amount of money. I can't tell you. The only thing I can tell you is that right now, if we want to get the water bills out, we got to have help. We don't have on staff at this time.
More discussion. I think with Samantha's credentials that I saw, she will probably pick this up pretty quick. I mean, I don't know that for a fact. She seems to be a very intelligent lady.
And she could probably use that book
But she
that's
may be
there.
able to.
We paid Cassell, Tom, before you came on board, we paid Cassell a lot of money.
Yeah.
Every month we turned around, it was Cassell wants this much money more to do this training, and they want this much money. And it's like it's a never-ending story. So here we're paying her. I mean, I trust that Samantha is sharp, You know, I felt bad at the meeting the other night, going, this woman's gonna think I'm against her.
Yeah.
And it didn't have nothing to do with who she was. It was just a matter of, you know, this contract right here, well, we gotta have some other options. Because, you know, the turnover rate in our city is facing high. So we spend all this money on Ashley, and Samantha gets ran out the door in the next month. And what are we gonna do again? We're gonna have to call Ashley up and beg her to come teach Cassell, or somebody's gonna pick it up and say, I know the system. But unfortunately, none of our applicants had ever worked with Cassell.
The only applicant that we had that had any training with Cassell was the lady that had worked at Villa Ricker. But I don't know how good she was because she was, public services was no longer needed there 4 years ago. But Mr. Councilman, all the money that we paid Villa Ricker, you know, was not going to Cassell. Cassell was not that big a part. Most of the money that went, that was fiscal services, was because they were our finance.
Oh, no, I'm aware of that, but we had several agenda items where we had to pay, you guys remember we had to pay a fee to Cassell. And it was this fee, and it went on for several months there. Yeah, I'm aware of the contract that we had for services, but we did have several items that were extras that we didn't know, and it was just a surprise every month.
I think it was a surprise
Cassell needs this,
to
Cassell
all of
needs
us,
this.
including Sarah Hefty, because we were told that it was basically everything in there, but it turns out that Cassell said there were a couple of things not in there. But the bottom line right now is that we don't have people on staff that I can promise you will get the work done in the next 2 to 3 weeks unless we got some help.
Sir. Isn't this still less expensive than what we would have been paid, we would have paid Bill Ricker from now to the end of the year for physical services?
Well, what we've got in terms of what I'm asking for this to be now in the contingency fund is that, and we're talking about less than, we're probably talking about $4,500. So we certainly, with everything we've got, including trying to get the finance department restarted, it should not be exceeding what we had in there in the intergovernmental agreement, plus what we're talking about in this contract.
But we also were receiving code enforcement services, which we're not getting now. So it's basically the same. No?
If you were to employ a part-time code enforcement officer, we should have sufficient money in the intergovernmental agreement to pay that person.
We'd be paying the same amount.
Because it would be about the same.
I'm reluctant to, like Mr. Rockwell said, we have gotten back in this situation. The water bills have to go out. They continue to be inaccurate. And I don't know how we're going to ever address that deficiency in that water bond if we can't send out an accurate statement. Something all the time. And if we do this, Mr. Osborne, is the water bills going to be accurate when they go out?
Mr. Mayor, I can't promise you that the water bill is going to be accurate. What I can promise you is that we get the water bills out. And hopefully, they are continuing to work to deal with problems that we have had with this conversion, because it has not been like I think it should have been. But hopefully it will be better. But I can't. The only thing I can promise you if we do this is we get the bills out. And hopefully they will be more accurate, much more accurate than they were last time.
Unlike Councilman Rockwell, we spent a whole lot of money when we could have solved the other problem. The mere reduction in job descriptions, because this council passed the job description by ordinance for all of the employees years ago, and this was continued to be added without any additional salary increase. But this is the situation we're in now. We've got to get these water bills done, so I am reluctantly appointing Mrs. Swan for this position before the city council. Got a motion and a second. And I agree, I don't think this new lady is going to take this much stuff. She's been successful in every venture or business venture she's ever been in. I think she's going to be smart. I think she's going to need just a tad of assistance here. And I certainly would not be in favor of going over on any of these hours here, cutting them back if it possibly can to reduce the cost of this water. Any more discussion?
One more question, sir. Bill, you said that this could potentially happen in less time. Is that in the contract? Or is she going to be contracted to be paid?
No.
So, for example, Samantha picks it up 10 hours, but Ashley has a contract for 32 hours.
No, not to exceed 32.
Okay.
I mean, she doesn't, in other words, if Samantha were to surprise all of us in 2 weeks from now, she says, I got it all and I can handle it at the end of the contract.
Any more discussion? Okay, that motion with Mr. Walden, and second by Mr. Bradford. Favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? One opposed, 3, 4, and 1 opposed. Your motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Bradford, made a motion to adjourn, your second. Second. Mr. Walden. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.